Welcome to Tiffany Turned On. I'm your host, Tiffany and Tokin. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in sex and relationships, hoping to help you discover current topics in a fun, sometimes serious, and educational manner. I hope to help you get turned on to life as well as inside of your bedroom. And today to Tiffany Turned On podcast. I love kink. I talk about that, and I want information to the regular population, to those vanilla people that are curious, to those kinksters that are like, let me learn a little bit about this or that. Tokin and I met at an event, and he is a 10-year-old Black man who goes by he or him as his pronouns. He's a single father and he's engaged to be married. And I met her and I approve. It doesn't matter. But I think she's wonderful. And she also happens to be beautiful. Hold on, that's almost like I expected her not to be pretty. No, I will just say I'm a beautiful, kind woman and I'm very excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are areas that I want he and I to address today, and that is about electricity play and the leather community. So these are two things that we often think of right away with BDSM. We tend to have images of bondage and of flogging, and kink is just a vast array of so many ways of expressing it, specialties, side kinks, main kinks, and he has, a little bit of a semi-expert status here in the local area, and I asked him to bring it on. One of the things I'm a real stickler about is people coming out and saying, hey, I'm a kinky bitch, without any particular training or classes, conferences, anything behind that. And Tokin has been kinking for over 11 years, and he has been mentored by a variety of community leaders. He's attended trainings, classes, conferences, and research. He's the current member at large for the Indiana Leather Club and is co-leader of the Indie Buzz local electric group. So let's start with electricity. I make a joke, having had I have a pacemaker defibrillator that I am already electrifying. So I'm coming in step one with that status, and therefore I can only 100% voyeur at the fun electric play that is happening around me. So can you start, Tokin, and just telling us what got you interested in the electricity piece? So again, I'm electrifying.
Of course.
You utilize electricity.
Shockingly beautiful, of course. It was about 8 years ago. I was invited to one of the local community clubs, and it was a kinkster club, but they had swinger type tendencies. And so it was like a nice little crossover between both, and it was an overnight
So it was
play
kind
party.
of the swinger side and the kink side, and the two were in some way interlapping.
Oh yeah, there was a whole lot of interlapping going. Enter everything. It was amazing. So much fun. But while I was up there, they had a couple come up and they were doing demos. And they were like, hey, we are doing electricity demos. We have tools with us and we want to kind of show people more of what's going on with the kink world. And of course, me, I've always been an individual that's been curious about different random wild things in this world. And I was like, electricity? Where
and
does
we're
this
both
fit
curious
in?
cats right here.
Absolutely.
Let me watch. Let me learn.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, let's watch these guys. They brought out their tools and they got everybody all set up. And they're like, all right, so this is what we have here. And the initial tool that they brought out was a violet wand. To those that don't know, a violet wand is a utilized tool that they have in the esthetician world. It was actually made many years ago. They originally had it for curing insanity in people. That's what they made it for. Like the crazy doctors, the mad scientists, they were like, oh, yeah, it's supposed to help cure insanity.
Just a little bit. So the first thing you said is, this is what beauticians use. And so I'm trying to get some image there. And I'm thinking, right, is it large like a big magic wand Hitachi? Is it kind of small and pointed and long like a Harry Potter wand? And then you just jumped into hysteria and electric shock treatment.
Pretty much. Like when you look at it, it's definitely bigger than a Harry Potter wand. It's honestly, it's about the size of a magic wand. Only thing is,
Hitachi magic wand, because that's a whopper. Yeah. I mean, that's the jackhammer of vibrators.
It's a pretty thick wand itself, but it's the tip. All right, just the tip is what really is what makes it that much better. Because with your Hitachi, with your magic wand, it has a coil on the inside and it feeds it the electrical current, and then it vibrates. It vibrates the massive ball on the end. Well, on this, with the violet wand, it doesn't vibrate the massive ball on the end. It actually has a glass electrode on the end. It's a glass tube, and it's filled with gas. It's filled with different types of gases, and these gases are excited by the same type of electricity that your wand goes off of. And so what happens is these gases get excited, and then it glows.
Oh, the gases get excited.
Oh, man. Yeah. No, that's exactly how it is.
Is this made of glass? Plastic?
It's actually got glass, but then it's got a polymer coating on the outside of it to help it not be so fragile. But most of the time, a lot of the older models were just pure glass. So it plugs into your wall. And so what happens is it changes the current from your wall into the wand, and then the wand itself changes the current into the glass tube. So like back in physics class, the plasma orbs that you could sit
like the static electricity balls?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's a bigger version of what a violet wand will do. With these different electrodes, they have different shapes and sizes and points and tips. They can sit there and they can touch it onto your skin, and it'll give you a subtle electric shock.
A zap.
Yeah, just a small zap, especially if they're going really low on the settings. It'll give you a nice subtle zap, and you're like, ooh, okay.
Static electricity. Like sometimes I'm walking around and then I go pet my cat and I can feel that little.
Yep.
Okay, so would that be considered like the low level of electric play?
Yeah, that's pretty low on the levels as far as electric play.
But a violet wand, it comes in purple? Is that the brand?
So it actually is brand named Violet Wand. That's a major brand name, but the original name came because of the gases inside the tube would glow a purple glow. So they give it a violet color.
Beauticians and psychiatry? Like how would they use it at the beauty school? How would they use it in the psych ward?
The psych ward doctors, they were using it back then to just give people that subtle shock and be like, all right, now you're cured. And of course they got written off as quacks, and it just didn't stick around very long. What people found out is that the electrodes themselves will help oxidize your skin, and it can actually be used to help clear pores and clear acne. That's what beauticians and estheticians use these actually for. They go through training and classes, and they use these to help with beautification treatments for individuals all around. And they've been using it in the esthetician field for at least 50, 60 years. I have no idea where they came to crossover from shrinks to estheticians, but
So you're struggling with a serious mental illness. I'm going to give you a couple zaps. It doesn't work, but damn, you look really good in your forehead and cheeks.
Your face just looks super rosy. They started doing it with beauty schools, and of course, us being kinksters, somebody along the way was like, you know what? I'm going to take this big hair violet wand thing, and I'm going to crank it up, and I'm going to start shocking people with it, because that just sounds fun.
It's all about sensation and intensity.
Of course. Yes.
So let me give you an intense sensation, because you are consenting and really want to receive the sensation. And with the violet wand, it has a lot of different kind of tips or ends.
A lot of times when you get like a starter kit, you're going to get a violet tip. They have a mushroom tip. They have a teardrop tip. The thing is that with electricity, all right, because this is still scientific about everything that we're doing here. With electricity, it wants to ground itself out. So if you have an electrical current and it's over a wide space of area, it will be a less of a shock versus if it was smaller and pinpoint, then it will be more of an intense shock because the electricity has less area to go through, and so it'll be more powerful through the smaller areas.
I'm almost thinking about having a pencil kind of close to your skin, getting ready to touch the skin, and then I'm envisioning like a current that I could see, like the light coming across.
We call that a spark gap.
A spark
so
gap.
You can,
okay.
Yeah, you can call it a spark gap with certain instruments and certain electrodes. There are other attachments as well that you can get for your violet wand to accessorize your electric kit, but you can see spark gaps if you have dim enough light or if the intensity is high enough.
It's a little bit of a Frankenstein feel. Where would I ever buy one of these? Do I have to go to like a special BDSM store?
Well, you can. Honestly, I tell people go to Amazon.
Amazon. Swear. So on Amazon.
I'm so serious. Yeah.
Now,
the key thing is with buying on Amazon, a lot of people have the safe search on their Amazon. When you type in these words, like if you type in Violet Wand on Amazon, a lot of times you'll want to get in like Harry Potter stuff. So what I usually tell people to do, go on a Google search, type in Violet Wand on there, and then look at your Amazon results, and then you can find different things and ways to find it.
If you have a kid, the safe search is smart. But I'm sitting here thinking, oh, a safe search. Do I have that? Hell no. No, nothing safe in my searching.
Oh, of course not. Same
so
here.
I could go on Amazon. I could find this Violet Wand. It has a handful of tips already in the introduction kit. But I need to think about number one before I even use it on another human or myself. Am I a candidate for shocking?
Yep.
What makes a person a candidate?
Huge. First and foremost, my number one recommendation is if you have a local space that you can possibly find somebody that has ever taught or know anything about electrical play, go to your local space and talk to them about it first, because it is huge for people not to just go and buy this kit and then just try it out on themselves.
Risky as hell.
It's super risky. If you take an electric shock across the heart, guess what? That's a heart attack. You have to understand and know that there are a lot of safety protocols that come with kinking. And a lot of people need to be aware that you may see something on film or hear somebody talk about it, and it doesn't automatically make you a master and think you can just go and do these things. I've been learning about the wand for 8 years now. And it wasn't for another 3 years before I actually bought my first kit.
So it's about, I'm going to take the classes, I'm going to watch, I'm going to have electric play with a mentor and really discuss safety precautions and consent prior to any of this very fun, well, for some, play.
Some. And electricity is not for everybody. I feel like with electrical play, it's an acquired taste. And sometimes you may think,
have you used the, I was going to say magic wand. Have you used the Violet Wand on someone's tongue?
I actually have. I don't think there's a part of the body that I haven't put a Violet Wand on. So,
well, master of the obvious is if you have a pacemaker or an ICD, you don't use it. What about if you have a hip replacement? What about, any metal that we have in our body?
Well, actually, I have metal in my left wrist. If you have small bits of metal and pieces in your body, you should be fine. Because the key thing with the Violet Wand versus a lot of other types of electrical play, the Violet Wand is dermal play. So it is mainly skin surfaced area. Now, with people with like pacemakers and different implants and whatnot, they shouldn't take the risk of playing with this at all.
So even though it's going to stay on the top layer or level of our body, just don't fuck around with it.
Yeah, just don't even try to think about it. Watch from afar. get a good distance. Definitely wouldn't try it if you have any type of major implants or anything like that. But if you have like hip replacement, knee replacement, test it. See how it feels with your body. Because sometimes, like I said, I have a screw in my wrist. I've had it there 13 years. And not once have I had any type of issues with the electrical play at all, be it dermal or subdermal. Some people may have, a whole hip that's purely metal. The other key thing is to also know what type of metal is in your body as well, because some metals are not conductive. Titanium is not conductive. That wouldn't be something that you would really have to necessarily worry about. But if you have any other type of metal in your body, you may have to worry about whether or not it's conductive and how the electricity will actually affect those areas.
One of my thoughts is ask your doctor. Well, if you ask your doctor, they might talk to you about getting that 1910 approach of let me shock you a little bit so you can start thinking straight. It really limits our awareness of safety medically within that profession. So what we do is we have to take it within the community and get the classes in that way. We're discussing that violet wand, which conducts the electricity, which has multiple different heads to provide different sensations. Can you describe maybe a scene that you've had? And for the listeners, what a scene is you meet with the person and you negotiate. What are you into? This is what I'm into. What's your list of yes, no, maybe? And if it's on the maybe list, then that makes it a no right away. You talk about where on the body, the level of intensity. You have safe words. And then you guys discuss when it's going to start. And when kink scenes start, there's usually a build-up, then to the middle with high intensity. And then there's the come down and the part of it ends. And then we start with the aftercare process. And so how does that person want to be tended to as they physiologically and psychologically recover from this amazingly intense experience that they've had? What would be a story that you're willing to share, of course, confidentially, as to who the play partner might be? What does even an electric scene look like?
So, of course, first and foremost, with an electric scene, the person I will talk about a scene I had. This person approached me and they were like, hey, I've never done electric before. I've always been curious about it and I've seen videos, and what can you tell me about it? And one of the first things I asked them is safety questions. I asked them, hey, how are you feeling? What do you know about electricity? Kind of get a background of who they are and what type of medical history that they have. Because i.e., if somebody has a pacemaker, I do not want to do electric on you. I do not want to be at fault for anything of that nature. But after we get a lot of the intense medical history down, then I asked them, so what have you know about electrical play? What is your history on it? Like, what have you seen and what do you think you're going to get out of this scene? What do you want out of this scene? Because with electrical play, it can be soft and gentle.
And electrifying.
It can be as so soothing as a massage, but then it also can be very intense and very extreme for some folks. Get on the high end of electrical play, you can actually do electrical branding and leave marks for extended period of times. This person that came up, they talked to me and they didn't have any medical issues or anything like that. I also wanted to check in about like if they were diabetic or anything of that nature, because that kind of plays into negotiating with the scene, is to figure out the medical history of that person. Because if somebody's a diabetic and they bottom out in the middle of the scene, I need to know. So that way, safety precautions, just to make sure that they're good. And they had no ailments, no issues, no problems. And so what I do is I usually start with a person laying on a massage table, and I will normally start out, if it's a brand spanking new person, which of course at Indie Buzz, we do get a lot of newer people, I will start with their arms. I will take out my wand and I will turn it on the lowest setting. And I will start with one of my basic tips, which is like a mushroom head tip. And I will take this, I will just run it up and down their arms. And so what would happen is they may feel a slight vibration, maybe a little tickle of electricity, but it also depends on how much fluids that person's had, their diet, their exercise regimen, because skin thickness and individuals are completely different. So I could have it on the level 1 on the wand and it feels like nothing to one person, but I have it on level 1 on another person and it feels like they're sticking their finger in a light socket. But the violet wand is being dermal, so it's mostly on the skin. Even if you were a thicker person or super scrawny, either or, it doesn't matter. It's about your skin thickness, because somebody could be a larger person and have very thin skin.
All right, now let's get to some details. So you have this person and they're on the massage table and you're being very nice and you're going up and down their arm, seeing what they're, what's the feedback, how the sensation is working for them. And then I want to say, and then?
Of course. And then they were like, all right, I kind of can feel it. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling all right. They dig it. And they're like, we can go up just a little bit. So I go up to 2.5 on my wand.
So there's like a knob. Like a knob.
Yeah, there's a knob on it to help it. Yep, it goes from 1 to 10, and you can change the variables between it, so it shows the intensity that the wand is going. At a 2.5, they're really starting to feel it, and they're like, "Okay, I want you to do it on my back." I was like,
"All right,
okay.
Flip over,
so they
baby."
Flip over. They take the shirt off, and I start running it all across their back, and they're just like wiggling and moving around, and they could just feel it, and they just enjoy all the feeling. Okay, what's the next level up from this? All right, so we're going to go to like a 4 or 5. Now, when we pre-negotiated, I told them, I was like, I will not go past a 6 on the wand on them, just because I don't want to go too far into it and it be too much for them, and I don't ever want to talk up in a scene. So I told him, I was like, automatically, just because you're a beginner, we're going to stop at 6. So we get to like 4 or 5 and they start giggling and they start laughing, and it is just tickling them all across their back, all across their shoulders. They're wiggling and moving and twisting and turning and just like having a ball. Their face is beet red and they are just giggling and giggling. When this scene happened, we were at an Indie Buzz meeting, and it's located at our co-leader's home.
In together to shock each other?
Yeah. First Sunday of the month. Absolutely.
After church.
No, yeah, a little bit, maybe. Yeah. And it's so much fun because I've been going to Indie Buzz for at least 7 years. And the amount of people, the overturn in our group, it's usually like 15 to 20 people at each meeting. But then certain people have learned and experienced so much with electric that they've taken their own electrical experiences and they've moved on. And so they don't really come to Buzz so much anymore. But then we bring in newer people. And so it's kind of rotating crowd of individuals that just meet up and link up. And
do people just show up and say, hey, I want to be shocked? Or is it more training or classes involved?
So with Buzz, it's a vetted event.
To know you, or someone close to us has to know you. So you're not going to be a mass murderer coming in, nor are you going to have some sort of significant psychological concern that you're not quite linked in reality. So we know you, and you got your shit together, at least somewhat.
At least somewhat, you're letting us shock you. So, I mean, you got to have a little bit of twinkling in that brain of yours. But we vet our individuals, especially because this is at her home. So we don't want to have every Tom, Dick, and Harry. One of my favorite scenes I've ever done. It was New Year's Eve, 2022. And my current fiance and a friend of mine were willing to allow me to do electric on them both at the same time.
They making out? Were they having intercourse?
Oh, okay. So there's another attachment to the Violent Wand that a lot of people really, really, really enjoy. It's called a body tripper.
A body tripper
or
trimmer?
Happens, body tripper. Okay. Yes. And so what this piece does is it actually plugs into the wand where the glass electrodes usually go, and you can place it on the bottom body or the top body. And what happens is that person's entire body becomes electrified.
Ooh.
And so what happens?
We said it has to go somewhere. It has to ground.
It has to ground out. And so it wants to, since your entire body's electrified, it's going to want to ground out. So let's say less pacemaker. If I put the body tripper on you,
and would I be on the massage table?
And I can't.
Okay, be laying on the. I could wear regular clothes.
Have the body tripper on you.
Okay.
Yep. You can wear regular clothes or naked. We always recommend people to wear as what makes you feel comfortable, but also note that with electricity, if it has any extra barriers in the way, it will intensify. Zipper, that's what I'm saying. So like even a t-shirt, if your clothing is, a lot of different types of clothing is conductive. Like polyester is conductive. Nylon is conductive.
Okay. Some sexy pantyhose, and you would give me a little shock that I could feel it all the way up my leg just from wearing the pantyhose.
All the way up your leg. Yes. I try to recommend people to say, if you can, wear as little clothing as possible, because also not only is the clothing conductive, even if the clothing isn't conductive, it adds a spark gap for the electricity to go through and has to work harder to get to your body and ground out. I can just take my bare hand. All right. You're laying on the body tripper. So they have many different styles. They have one that's like a skinny tube, one that looks like a flat credit card, but it's a metal object that's hooked to a cord that's going inside of your violet wand.
It's metal. And then it has some sort of cord that's linking it to the magic wand.
As soon as I turn the wand on, you'll hear a slight buzz, of course, and you become electrified. And I can just take my bare hands and run it across your body. And once I do that, you will actually feel the electric charge
from your fingertips.
From my fingertips.
Well, where's the magic wand? Because I got you holding that in your hand.
No, the magic
the
wand.
Violet wand. See, I'm thinking about one of my favorite things.
Yeah. See, even with you having the violet wand either on my body or we can have it sitting on the floor. Either way it goes, the electricity is going through your body and it is just going to send sensations to anything that is trying to ground you out, like my fingertips.
A little flirt in regards of touching someone.
Oh, absolutely. But then it gets better because then you can use metal objects. Anything metal on that person's body. A spoon, yes. A spatula, yes. If you have a ruler, like one of the old school wooden rulers that's got the metal on the end for the edge, yes, you can hold that.
The head scratcher. Yeah. So it has like 8 prongs on it, and you use it to scratch. Relaxing feeling.
Absolutely. If you look at my electric kit versus some of the other people in the community's electric kits, the creativity that we get just from walking into Home Depot.
Oh yeah, the
Lowe's,
pervertibles,
Menards,
when we use everyday things to kink it up.
Everyday things. I have a 36-inch stainless steel whisk that I use for electric
36-inch?
Yeah.
So we're talking about metal things that you can use on the body. The person's lying there with a little credit card thing. They are a ground, or you are their ground. Which one? Who's the ground?
The electricity is flowing through the person, and the electricity wants to ground itself out. So the person that is going to be doing the touching will be the ground for the person that has the electricity flowing through them.
And if you are touching them with your hand and they're feeling the shock, what about you? Are you being shocked as well?
Yep, you're going to feel the shock just as well. Same intensity as that person's getting.
Okay, so when you're talking about like the two people.
It is mutual. Yes. And so with that, the only way to really bypass the person that is doing the shocking, not the person that is getting the shock, is by using metal utensils. So using like the spoon and the knife, what happens is the electricity is grounding out through the spoon, not through you, and you don't feel the electricity, but the person still does.
So if it's just kind of like your naked regular hand touching, you can feel it. But if you hold a spoon, the spoon conducts it and you don't feel it. Okay.
Correct.
What about putting it on someone's tongue? What about in someone's ass or on their genitals?
So you can actually, with the electrodes, do not use the electrodes internally because they are glass and they could break. Safety hazards. I have heard they have made electrodes that are better for internal stuff, but I've never tested them, so I wouldn't recommend looking into that. But with the body tripper, you can actually utilize that anywhere on the body avoid the eyes. All right. Like that's probably not somewhere you should shock somebody. Up the nose, things like that. I've had people ask about that. I swear I have. Some of the questions I've gotten as far as people asking, and this is not the first time somebody has ever asked about sticking something up their ass. Like,
I was just thinking,
get shocked everywhere.
Like aliens, evidently they abduct us, and what they do is anally probe us.
Mm-hmm. Anally probe us with the violet wand. I'll show them actually how to use it really well.
And what about, so if I'm on the table, and you then touch me, and I get a tingle feeling, if I take my other arm and touch a third person, does anything go there?
It's a chain reaction.
So I could have fingers instead of Edward Scissorhand. I could fingers that are almost like electrical bursts coming from them.
We can do multiple people in a chain and actually have it to where they all feel the shock all at the same time. Of course, if the body tripper's under you and then you touch somebody and then that person touches somebody, as you go down the chain, the
intensity goes down. I have seen rope that's used for bondage or shibari, often jute or hemp. Don't they even have nylon now too? And it will have like a metal thread through it. And so you can tie the person up
rope.
And then touch the rope, conducts it so the body gets the sensation through the rope.
Correct. There's conductive rope. In fact, actually, you can go to fabric stores and they have conductive yarn.
Ooh. So you don't even have to go get some fancy rope. You can just go to Joann Fabrics.
You can go to Joann Fabrics, get you some conductive yarn. If you know somebody that's good at knitting or crocheting, they can maybe make like a little arm sleeve for you. And the next thing you know, you could tap that arm sleeve with the violet wand and you got some kinky fun.
Like stories or tips would you give us?
So New Year's Eve, I had two bottoms. I had a friend and my current fiance. They wanted to be shocked at the same time. I actually hooked my body tripper up to a emergency blanket, one of the thin metal emergency blankets, because it's made out of mylar and mylar is conductive.
An emergency blanket.
And so one of the emergency fire blankets. So it's thin and it's made of mylar. Had them both holding onto the mylar blanket, which had the body tripper wrapped around in it. It made the blanket conductive and it made both of them conductive. We had them leaning against the cross at the same time.
And this is the St. Andrew's cross. And so it's shaped in an X format. All right. So when you say cross, I just wanted to give the listeners an image.
Yep. With the St. Andrew's cross, they're both leaning on it at the same time, both on the blanket, both on the body tripper. So they're both conductive. I pull out all of my different toys and tools, and I had a foot pedal switch hooked up to my violet wand. So that way I can turn it on and off when I wanted to, just by hitting the switch. I would turn it on then with metal objects like the spatula, spoons, two people on the blanket, on the cross, and they were on top of the body tripper. I had a foot pedal switch linked into my violet wand. So that way I can hit the switch and it would turn it off, and hit the switch and it would turn it back on, and have it at the same intensity that it was when I first turned it off. Shock them, tickle them, make them feel all tingly, and then hit the foot pedal switch and then switch over to impact. Hit them with the flogger, hit them with, whatever instruments I wanted to. And we went back and forth.
Were they still electrified when you were impacting them with the flogger? Pause in the electric. Then it was the intensity impact of the flogger.
It depends on the type of flogger that you're using. We were going back and forth between electric and then impact and then electric.
That was a lot of sensations for those people.
Oh, so much sensations, giggling and laughing. It was such a creative, fun scene that we came up with out of nowhere, and it worked really well. We almost missed the midnight drop because of our scene, because it was so good.
When you say the midnight drop, it was a lot of fun and pleasure and city with you and your partner, and how you were able to do that all with electricity that we play with as safe as we can. And that's why we use the acronym RAC, which is Risk Aware Consensual Kink. So you know that there is potential.
Correct.
But you, as the electric top, has the training. You've talked about it ahead of time. They then say yes to the risk and have the safe words. All right.
Absolutely.
For those of you interested in electric play, do some research online. FetLife, which is kind of like the Kinky Facebook version. You can go to the top to click on events.
You can look in the search bar. Key terms to look up is violent launch. There are many different groups.
All right.
It's
well,
all
thank
about
you so
safety.
much electrifying us today. The music for Tiffany Turned On is provided by Kumasi Afrobeat. They are New Orleans' full Afrobeat band. They play to make you move. KUMASIAFROBEAT.com to listen more. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead, like, follow, share with your friends, and leave a review. Any of the recommended books or items that you hear about on my podcast, you can find them on my website. I have a special tag for sexual resources and wellness. This includes my TEDx talk titled I Love Pleasure. I consider it free therapy. It's all at neworleanssextherapy.com. I hope you're here to get turned on to life and in your bedroom.